I bought a $60,000 tiny home that is 198 square feet to put on my ranch in Texas and list on Airbnb. 6 months later, it has already made $60,000 in gross revenue. That is about $10,000 per month. Every single month has grown, and we've had multiple videos go viral on social media, even though this place is not a one-of-a-kind place. And I've spent almost nothing on traditional marketing. Today, I'm going to break down every dollar in and every dollar out, the month that almost broke us, and exactly what I'm doing for the next 6 months going forward. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, my name is Garrett Brown. I'm the short-term rental expert at Bigger Pockets, and I own and manage over 20 short-term rentals in 2 different markets that gross $1.5 million in revenue every single year. This is the channel where I show you exactly how these type of things work. No fluff, real numbers. I don't sell a mastermind. I don't sell a course, anything like that. I am just here to help and let you know what I do on a day-to-day and see if it benefits you. And if you like this kind of content and transparency, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get into the real numbers so that you can really see what it takes to run this type of operation and make it a successful one. Today, we're zooming in on just one specific property I have, my newest one, called the Zindan at Cameron Ranch Glamping. Let's start month by month. So we launched this in mid-October. So all these are from October 15th to November 15th. That's the increments I got here. Month 1 is $9,580. We didn't have any reviews, any traction on this property. We have a social brand and that helped us a lot, but the property literally just opened. I thought the number was incredible for a brand new listing with no history, especially for what I paid for it. Month 2, we hit $9,440. Slight dip, but still everything is going great. Month 3 is when it really started to pick up. We got about $13,000. This is when it started clicking. This was the holiday season, extra packages, extra add-ons, pet fees, early check-in, all these things really started to add up. Now, month 4, we had a slight dip. And when I say slight dip, we still made almost $7,500. This was with 1 week being closed completely at the site because we had a massive freeze coming into Texas. I refunded some people, rescheduled some people. I wasn't going to keep them at my property as a safety concern, and electricity could be out, all these things too. It was not the time. I'm not that host that is always going to be my cancellation policy. There's a major weather event, I'm getting them out of there for safety and my own peace of mind. But we bounced back very quickly. Then we went into month 5. This was also a very short month too. This is around February. We made $10,290. Back on track, really rocking. Now we're in month 6. And this is, I think the numbers are from mid-March to mid-April. And this is March 19th that we're recording today. So still plenty of time, and there's still a few openings and bookings here. There's a couple dates definitely still lingering. We're probably 80% occupancy if I guessed. $11,020 already for this month and projected. So across 6 months, we're just over $60,000 from a 198 square foot cabin. Let that sink in for a second. But let's talk about where the bookings actually came from, because this is, we'll get into expenses and all these other things too shortly. But the main thing to note, I only got about, $2,500 from Airbnb bookings on this. The rest of it was all through my direct booking platform. That's not an accident. That's a strategy. But we're going to cover that in just a little bit about how I was able to do that and how you can do the same thing. But I think you probably want to know about the expenses. Revenue is just a vanity number. So me talking about it is definitely just a little clickbait, because if I put what my profit was, it wouldn't be as enticing. But we still probably made about $4,000 to $5,000 in profit. I'll break down the expenses right now, though, and because it's full transparency. That's what I like to do over here. My home that I got, the $60,000 tiny home, I was able to finance it as an RV park model. What that means is it's a tiny house on wheels and a trailer. A lot easier to get an RV park model loan on these type of things. I have a 5-year loan. It's 8% interest or something like that. I'm paying about $1,419 a month on the note. So in 5 years, I won't have this at all. This would be pure income, but I also didn't have to put up my own money. And it was very easy to get this loan. I'm not going to lie. It was one of the easiest things I've seen. So then we also have cleaning expenses. That's about $1,500 per month, give or take how many cleanings, but it charges about $100 per cleaning with bedding in this, so could fluctuate some. And we also have credit card processing fees. That's about 3.5% on all the transactions. It's only about $350 gone, but the alternative was, if you're only on, this is all through direct booking, there's a few things you need to do, but the alternative is if I had done all of these through Airbnb, they would have took 15.5% of my commissions. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to market and all these things, but you're also competing against everyone. Everybody's price gouging on there. And if I make $100,000 a year and they're all through Airbnb and I spend $15,500 to them to do that, you could take $10,000 of that money, do a big, massive marketing campaign, all these things to have credit card fees and own the guest and not be worried about random refunds and random reviews that you can't remove, all these things that truly keep Airbnb hosts up at night. I would still be under what Airbnb would charge. And that's spending almost $1,000 a month in marketing every single month. And I'll tell you right now, I've spent about $300 in marketing on the property between some small emails, getting some social media clips edited, things like that. When I first got the property, I spent about $2,000 on very high quality video and photography, which is going to last me all year. But now per month, we're spending a couple $100 a month. I also have 20 different properties though, and we spend close to $5,000 on all of them in marketing between ads, social, SEO, all the bells and whistles, email, SMS marketing. So I'm able to spread it out. If you might have a little bit higher marketing per property, if you have less properties, but you can still make this happen if you know the right type of marketing strategy to run. Then we also had utilities. I'm on septic, I'm on water wells, so those are basically nothing besides, just maintaining those. But I spend about $500 a month between electricity, internet, and a couple other small things. About $100 a month on insurance extra. Then taxes. This is not, federal employment taxes or anything. This is hotel occupancy taxes, which I could have left this number out. But again, just full transparency and everything about these, when you see gross revenues in Texas, at least in my counties, you have to pay 6% of your, revenue to the state and 7% to your local county. That varies depending on your county, but this county is like that for hotel occupancy taxes. I spend a ton of money with these people. I probably have never seen anything in return from it, but don't deal with Uncle Sam or Uncle whoever running the Texas hospitality occupancy taxes. We also had some supplies and guest packages and CapEx, things like that. Some of this revenue is coming from us providing romance packages, birthday packages, things like that. Between that and some CapEx, small things to reserve, we're probably about $600 a month, which total expenses between $6,000 and $6,800 per month there, which means our net profit is typically around $4,000 to $5,000 each month in my pocket from this property. Now I'm building a business and a true brand, so I reinvest everything back into the product. But if you have a couple of these on site and you live on the house up front and you land hacked and you're building some generational wealth by owning land and having other people pay it down, and you're making, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 profit each month, you could even get these numbers down too if you're handling some of the things on your own. And it can be a great lifestyle for somebody. They truly are looking to do this and provide for their family while also building some generational wealth and building a business. So we'll talk about the viral story and basically of like the thing I didn't plan for, even though I knew it would happen, is the property did go viral a couple times. There was a few videos that had millions of views. We worked with, a couple exchange influencers, which I'll quickly talk about influencers in a second. And that really helped the property. But that comes from me knowing marketing. I have a marketing background. I lean into my strong suit. So if you do not have that as a strong suit, focus on what you're really good at, maximize that, and then hire people to help with your weaknesses. That's what I've done. There's a few things that I'm not good at, and I hire people to help me there because I realize that's where I need the most work and support. We did a lot of organic social media, a lot of organic SEO, email marketing. That really helped fill it up. We did a couple influencers. A few years ago, macro influencers were huge. Followers really mattered. Now with the changes in algorithm, somebody with 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers has just as much of a chance to go viral if their content is good as somebody with a ton of followers. And those people with 500,000 million followers, they want $5,000 to come to your property. You're probably never going to see that ROI on one post. And there's a very high chance the post is not going to do that well. I've spent a couple $1,000s on posts and they got 50,000 views. And I don't even know if they really drew in one booking. Maybe, it's not the worst place I've ever spent money, but the best thing to do is find micro influencers with a couple thousand followers that you can get to come stay on a Monday or a Tuesday. You pay the cleaning fee or something like that, and that they make good quality content. And then when you look at their page, they have just as good of a shot to go viral. And that's kind of what happened with us. And when I say viral, like 100,000 plus views, not anything, 50 million views or anything. Semi-viral is probably a better way to put it. But they have just as good a chances to get your property going and costs a lot less. The ROI is always going to be better. And if their video flops, all you did was pay a small cleaning fee and you gave up a Monday or a Tuesday, which good luck booking those anyway sometimes. Even somebody like me who we do about 85% occupancy, Mondays and Tuesdays still kill us. So besides the full marketing strategy though, there were some things that we did that moved the needle for this one and why this one became our most popular site so far and most profitable. We have other places that are lakefront. We have other places that are just more viral looking, mirror houses, geodomes, tree houses, all those things too. This is a more regular style house, but the things that we've learned from it were pretty big. When I first built my site, I used to think everything needed to be spaced out and just super far away. And that's the only way people will really pay top dollar. But then I realized that the fencing was the huge part on this unit. We enclosed this with fencing, but left the view wide open. So that way when a guest looks left, looks right, they don't see anybody. They still have a beautiful view. The fencing added a feeling of like a privacy that didn't have at the other units. It actually, like, they're a little overexposed to some of those units. I've kind of decided, like, I think this and feedback from people and all these ways that we get this kind of data and just anecdotally and real data is that people genuinely love the fenced portion of this because it feels more private. The second thing we did was obviously the amenities, hot tub, sauna. A sauna I think is more of a marketing gimmick than it is actual use because I don't think people use it a ton. But the hot tub was definitely essential. We have outdoor pizza oven, certain things like that truly add to it. A TV. We're adding amenities. We just added a cold shower. We'll probably add like a small cold plunge or something like that. But that's what gets shared. That's what people come for. They hang out on the outside just as much as they do on the inside. So that's what books you out. Third is we are pet friendly. A lot of people are shy about being pet friendly. They're scared of damage and all these things. We've probably made about $3,000 to $4,000 in pet fees alone just from this property. And the occupancy rate is super high because we allow pets. Not everybody brings a pet and we do a really good job on the cleaning side. But if you're not pet friendly and you're struggling on occupancy, this is the easiest lever to unlock. Turn it on. It's the most searched filter on Airbnb. Charge a pet fee. You're going to make more money per guest, and you're also going to get more guests. It's a no-brainer. And if you're really, truly worried about damage or anything, pay your cleaners a little extra from the pet fee and get something like Safely or Wavo or one of these damage protection things out there that is going to be able to cover pet damage if you're truly worried about it, because the upside is way higher than not having it. So what am I doing for the next 6 months with this property and all my properties in general? Well, I'm adding more. I'm going to build my best one yet. I think in July. It's coming from Europe. It's getting delivered turnkey, going to drop on my site. But everything I've learned from this one, that one is probably going to be the most viral one we've had and probably the highest rates we've ever been able to accomplish. I'm hoping that one makes $140,000 per year. We'll see how it goes. I got some good ideas for it. So hit that subscribe button if you're interested in tuning in as to everything I'm doing with that and to learn more about it. But I'm projecting the Zindan, the one we're talking about, to hit about $120,000 in gross revenue this year. I'm not a financial wizard or anything, but if I spend $100,000 and I make $120,000 revenue, which profit's probably going to be, let's say 50, that's a 50% cash on cash return. But then the other crazy part to that, and I'm sure I'm going to mess up some terms and numbers here, but I didn't put the $60,000 down out of my pocket to pay for the unit. So I've really only spent about $40,000 out of my pocket. And each month, the revenue is paying down that loan. So I don't know what the cash on cash return is for that, but have at it and look. If we're thinking on just the $40,000 that I spent, I'm going to make about 110 to 120% cash on cash return my first year, which is wild to me. Here's the takeaway I have from all of this, and hopefully you can take this and put it into your own life, own business, everything you're trying to build right now. You don't need to spend $1 million on the inside of a property. You don't need a $1 billion Breckenridge cabin to do well. Like, spend as much on the outside as you do on the inside of a property. Spend on some really high quality marketing materials and then go all in on the marketing side. Like, operations, admin, cleaning, all that doesn't matter if you're not getting bookings and you're not getting seen. And if you don't know marketing, hire somebody that does, because everything else that you do falls flat when you're not getting the eyeballs on the property. It doesn't matter. Your pricing strategy doesn't matter. Like, all these things literally fall off a cliff if you're not getting eyeballs. That's why you have to build your own brand. There's a reason why Yeti can sell a $40 or $50 cup, and that same exact cup almost from China was about $10 or $15. People are still buying the Yetis and the Stanleys. It's all about brand and then the highest quality product you can provide. So I'll leave you with this. And if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, I'd love to help you. Just let me know in the comments below and I'll address them as they come in. But someone once told me that The best things in life are on the other side of discomfort, and that can't be more true. I've always been very uncomfortable in everything I've been building, but I knew I was on the right path because of that uncomfortability. That is what separates people that truly make it in this from the ones that don't. They batten down the hatches, bite their teeth, and they go after it. And they realize that the worst that can happen is they fail and they keep going. You can't fail until you quit. That's the one thing I've learned in this. All my projects I'm working on right now, a lot of uncomfortability coming, but again, the best things lie on the other side of that. If you're willing to sacrifice, anything's possible. Drop your biggest questions in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you made it this far. I really appreciate it. I'm going to keep updating you on everything here. And I think YouTube wants you to watch one of those videos right here. See y'all in the next one. Take care.